The morning light filled Rusty's small home. Buddy lay by his side, as he always did, loyal, patient, and watchful. But today, Buddy noticed something was off. Rusty wasn't his usual self. He wasn't grumpy or ready to start the day. There was a storm in his eyes that even Buddy couldn't soothe. He nudged Rusty's hand with his wet nose, hoping to rouse him from whatever thoughts were troubling him. But when Rusty turned, there was a faraway look in his eyes that made Buddy's ears droop. Rusty sat up slowly, clutching a photo frame in his trembling hands. His eyes softened as he stared at the picture, but his mind searched for a memory that seemed just out of reach. The face in the picture he could not place. It was a woman, young and vibrant, smiling back at him, yet he couldn't recall who she was. The dog whined softly, sensing the turmoil in his friend's heart. He knew that look, that lost expression. It mirrored the confusion that clouded Rusty's eyes whenever he gazed into the middle distance, unable to recognize the faces of loved ones or the places that held their memories. Buddy nudged him again, this time licking away the stray tear that escaped Rusty's eye. He got up, tail wagging softly, and trotted to the window, looking out at the garden they shared. He barked once, twice, then turned back to Rusty, his eyes pleading. "Go on, old friend," he seemed to say. And Buddy was right. The air was fresh and alive with the promise of a new day. As Rusty got up, his gaze fell on the photo frame lying on the table. With a shaky hand, he picked it up and examined the picture. The woman in the photo was young, perhaps in her early 20s, with a bright smile and eyes that twinkled with life. Her hair was the color of wheat, and she had an arm slung around Buddy, who was a puppy in the picture. He was so tiny in comparison to her, but his ears were already perked up, his tail wagging furiously. But who was she? He sighed, feeling the weight of his failing memory press down on him. He looked at Buddy, who sat patiently, waiting for them to go for their walk. Rusty managed a weak smile. "Sorry, old boy," he said, his voice raspy with emotion. "Sometimes my mind plays tricks on me." "One day it will be clear again," he added, more to reassure himself than the dog. Rusty put the picture back on the table, careful not to let his trembling hands jostle it. He shuffled out the door, leaning heavily on his cane. Buddy followed close behind, his tail still, his eyes never leaving Rusty's side. They walked in silence for a while, the crunch of gravel underfoot the only sound breaking the quiet. As they rounded a corner, Rusty stopped suddenly, his gaze fixed on the old radio in the window of a nearby shop. Buddy whined, sensing Rusty's unease. He went to his friend's side, resting his head on his knee. Just the familiar scent of old wood and dust hung in the air, but it brought back no memories for Rusty. He placed a hand on Buddy's head, finding comfort in the dog's steady presence. In that moment of confusion, amidst the jumble of emotions, one thing was clear. Buddy was his anchor. He led Rusty back to the small home, where the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the floor. As Rusty sat down, Buddy jumped up on the chair beside him, resting his head on Rusty's lap. In the silence that followed, Rusty whispered softly, as if asking Buddy the question that weighed on his heart. "Why do things slip away, old friend?" Buddy looked up at him with eyes full of love and understanding. He couldn't answer the question, but his gaze conveyed a message that transcended words. "You are not alone," he seemed to say, and in that silence, Rusty found an answer. Not every memory lives in the mind, he realized. Some live in the heart. He looked down at Buddy, his loyal companion who had never left his side. Buddy's love and loyalty were a constant in his life, a steady flame that burned brightly despite the encroaching darkness. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the room, Rusty managed a weak smile, patting Buddy's head. "Even as time takes its toll," he whispered, "love remains." And Buddy's loyalty was more than enough to light Rusty's path forward. Outside, the sky blazed with hues of orange and purple as the sun dipped below the horizon. The evening star twinkled in the darkening sky. a silent witness to the bond shared by an old man and his dog. Inside, nestled in each other's company, Rusty and Buddy faced the night. Two souls bound by an invisible thread of love and loyalty,